Hi, this is Pete Madsen for acoustic guitar, and I'm here to talk about my lesson on soloing with triads and dominant 7 chords. If you're a guitar player that knows some pentatonic scales and you use those to solo, that's a great first step. You might notice though, occasionally you'll hit a note that just doesn't quite sound right. So that's why if you follow the chord changes, you can actually use the chord shapes you already know to help voice your solo. So in this lesson, I'm going to start off by showing you just some basic chord shapes. We'll create licks for each chord. This is key of A, so we'll do the A chord, the 4 chord, which is D, and the 5 chord, which is E. So I'm going to show you a few examples for each one of those chords. Then as we go forward, I'll give longer examples, like say you play in a first 4 bars of a 12 bar in a blues in A will be all the 1 chord, that'll be A. So I'll show you some longer progressions there. Then chord transitions, moving from say the 1 chord to the 4 chord, or through the 5 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, and back to the 5 chord. Finally, at the end of the lesson, I'll give you a whole 12 bar sample of how this works. To start off with, in week 1, I'm going to play an A chord up the neck at the 5th position. This looks kind of like an F chord. If you know F here, and you move it up to the 5th fret, you can call that an F shape. You could also call this an E shape, the full sort of bar chord version of this. But we're just going to use the top 4 notes. And then we'll also add the 7th. So that was the major triad. Here's the dominant 7th chord. We just added the G note in there and we get a dominant 7th. In example 2, I'm just going to use the major triad. It goes like this. You'll notice I do a little hammer on, which gets me into the chord tone, the major third, minor third. It's a real typical blues thing where you slur between the minor third and the major third. But it ends up covering all the notes of that major triad. In example 3, I'm going to add in the dominant 7th sound. Play that again. Okay, so that covers the 1 chord, A. Now I'm going to go to the 4 chord, which is D. I'm going to start off with this voicing. You'll notice I'm in the same fret range as I was for the A chord, which was between the 5th and the 7th fret. Now I'm still between the 5th and 7th fret, but I'm playing a D major triad. If I take that shape and I add my pinky to the 8th fret of the 1st string, I get a D7 chord. So I'm going to create 2 licks, one with just the major triad. This is example 5. Do that again. And in example 6, here's the dominant sound. You notice I do a little triplet pull-off thing. I'm still kind of in the shape, almost in that shape of the major triad. In fact, I could keep that held down. All right, so you can kind of go back and forth between the dominant 7th and the major triad. In example 7, we're going to have 2 E chords. This is the 5 chord in your 1-4-5 progression. I'll start off with what looks like a D shape, actually is a D shape. Moved up 2 frets, it becomes an E major. And then I'm going to use this shape as a 7th chord. I want to talk about that shape a little bit because it might not be really obvious looking at it where that comes from. I think of the parent chord here as being a C7 shape. And then if I was to move my ring finger or my pinky off the 3rd string, my ring finger takes over there. My pinky lands on the 1st string. And let's say I remove my middle finger. Now I've created the voicing of what I'm going to use in my lick. So that's the dominant 7. So this is going to be example 8. Do that again. I slid into the major triad three times. And then I transitioned, as I transitioned to the 7th chord, I hit the 2 open strings and resolved onto that dominant 7th.